At a family dinner, my fiancée announced her ex was her life and said, "If you can't accept him, don't marry me." So I folded my napkin, said, "Okay," and walked out, canceling the wedding overnight. Things got really tense at a Sunday dinner. One of those awkward pre-wedding family get-togethers where two very different families awkwardly pretend they're merging into one. My parents, a quiet couple married for 40 years, were seated on one side, while my fiancée Clara's parents, both retired therapists who spoke in pop psychology jargon, were on the other. And then there was Leo, Clara's ex-boyfriend. To her and her family, he wasn't just an ex. He was like a spiritual brother, woven into the fabric of her life. He showed up for every holiday, every dinner, and even had a key to her parents' house. To me, he was the annoying ghost looming over our relationship. I had made it clear how I felt about him from the start. I'm not usually the jealous type, but I believe in boundaries. Past relationships shouldn't be front and center at your future wedding dinner, cracking jokes with your bride-to-be. Clara and her family dismissed my concerns with condescending lectures about my supposed possessiveness and outdated views on family. They acted like my traditional beliefs were just a quaint, albeit primitive, flaw. I went along with it, but not because I was a pushover. I wanted to see how far Clara would go. I needed to know whether the foundation of our relationship was solid or just shaky sand. During dessert, the topic of the wedding seating chart came up. My mom, who has a way of speaking her mind with quiet authority, asked, "Clara, I see you have Leo sitting at the main family table next to your aunt. Is that really the best spot for him? Maybe a friend's table would be more fitting." The atmosphere immediately chilled. Clara's mom dropped her fork, and Clara turned a furious shade of red. I tried to intervene, saying, "Clara, my mother is just worried about how it might look to our guests. Having your ex at the family table could send a mixed message." Clara shot back at me, eyes ablaze. "A mixed message? The only mixed message here is that you and your folks seem stuck in the past. Leo is my best friend, he's family to me. He was in my life long before you came along, and he'll be there long after. He'll always be a part of my life." Her dad added his 2 cents, voice dripping with disdain. "Ben, we've discussed this. Your rigid views on relationships only breed insecurity. Clara and Leo share a beautiful connection. You should cherish that, not try to control it." It was a tag team effort with her mom nodding along for support. They had clearly practiced this kind of psychological play for a while, but this time felt different. My parents were witnessing how Clara and her family were treating me and our future together with such casual disrespect. Feeling empowered by her parents' backing, Clara stood up, hands on her hips, and laid down the law in front of everyone. "Let me clarify, my ex will always be in my life. He'll be at our wedding, at our kids' baptisms, at our holidays. That's non-negotiable. If you can't deal with it, then don't marry me." The ultimatum echoed in a stunned silence, like a declaration of war. Everyone stared at me, waiting for my response, expecting me to argue, plead, or back down, just like so many times before. Clara had a triumphant, smug look, thinking she had me cornered. I didn't say anything for a full minute, just took it all in. I looked at her, so full of defiance, at her parents nodding approvingly, and then at my own folks, whose faces wore a mix of shock and quiet dignity. And then I turned back to her. The long game was over. She just handed me the results of a major stress test, and the verdict was clear. I nodded slowly. "Okay," I finally said softly. The word came out so calmly, it seemed to take her by surprise. "Okay?" she repeated, her tone mocking. "Okay, you'll behave? Okay. You'll stop being a jealous child?" "No," I said, rising from the table. I folded my napkin and set it on my plate. "Okay, I won't marry you." I turned to my parents. "Mom, Dad, we're leaving." And just like that, without another glance at Clara or her shocked family, we walked out of their lives. Update 1. The car ride home was silent for the first 10 minutes. My dad kept his eyes on the road, hands gripping the wheel, while my mom stared out the window. I think they were waiting for me to break down, to show some regret, but I felt only a strange sense of peace, like a huge weight had been lifted. Finally, My dad spoke, voice steady. Are you sure about this, son? I've never been more sure of anything in my life, I replied. My mother turned to me from the passenger seat. No tears, just fierce pride shining through. Good, she said. She wasn't the one for you. We were just waiting for you to see it. When I got back to my house, the one I had bought, the one Clara had been living in for 2 years, my phone was buzzing like crazy. I had dozens of missed calls and a flood of messages from Clara, her parents, her friends, even Leo. They ranged from angry to confused to pleading. Clara, what was that? You just walked out? You can't be serious, her mom texted. Leo chimed in with, Dude, what's your deal? You're blowing this out of proportion. They all seemed to think this was just a tantrum that could be brushed aside with some lectures and an apology. They didn't realize how final my okay was. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I called our wedding planner, Cynthia. Cynthia, I said, it's Ben. We need to make a change. The wedding is off for good. She was stunned. What? The invitations are set to go out tomorrow. Stop everything, I said. Don't send out a single invitation. Also, please start canceling all vendors. Clara and her family will handle all financial matters from here on out, since they're the ones covering the costs. This was a key part of my plan. I hadn't paid for the wedding. Her dad had made sure everyone knew that. Now, the financial fallout of the canceled wedding was their problem, not mine. The next morning, the real fallout began. Cynthia, doing her job efficiently, started making the necessary calls. The first one was to Clara's parents. I would have paid to see that conversation. The caterer, the florist, the venue. It was like hammering another nail into the coffin of their grand plans. And each call meant another non-refundable deposit lost. Clara's dad called me, practically shouting, What have you done? Do you know how much money we're losing? You can't just do this. I didn't do anything, I replied, my tone calm. I just accepted your daughter's terms. She said either I accept Leo's presence in our marriage or I don't marry her. I chose the latter. Those are her conditions, and it's your responsibility to deal with the consequences. He sputtered about lawyers and lawsuits. Breach of promise? I laughed. A cold sound. You were there, Richard. You heard the ultimatum. I declined her conditions. There's no lawsuit, only the bill for a party you're no longer hosting. I hang up. The next person to show up was Clara herself. She walked in using her key and found me packing her things. What are you doing? She shrieked, disbelief plastered across her face. I'm helping you move, I said without looking up. You'll need to find a new place to live. You can't kick me out. I live here. No, Clara, I said, finally standing to face her. You've been staying here. This is my house. My name is on the deed, and your invitation has been revoked. I'm changing the locks tomorrow. You should get your parents to pick up your things. She broke down then, her confident facade melting away, revealing a scared, entitled child. She cried, begged, and pleaded, saying she didn't mean it, that it was a stupid comment, that she loved me. I remained unmoved. That time had passed, long before my mother was disrespected at her dinner table, long before she made her ex a condition of our marriage. She made a choice, and now I was making mine. Update 2. The following 30 days were a harsh education for Clara about real consequences. She and her family had lived in a cushy bubble of privilege and immunity to the repercussions of their actions. Now that world was gone. The first lesson was financial. After a week of threats, her dad realized I wasn't going to chip in a dime toward the financial fallout of the canceled wedding. The final bill for lost deposits and cancellation fees was close to $100,000. A staggering hit even for them. The second lesson was social. They tried to spin the story, of course, saying I was emotionally unstable and had a breakdown, but the reality was too juicy. A dozen witnesses were at that dinner. The word spread quickly. Clara wasn't a victim. She was the arrogant fiancée who overplayed her hand and lost everything. After moving out of my house, Clara had to return to live with her parents, and the atmosphere was reportedly toxic. Her parents, dealing with the financial fallout and public humiliation, were constantly at odds. The facade of their perfect family was shattered, exposing a bitter, dysfunctional reality. As for Leo, it turned out he was more of a casual companion than a real support. He enjoyed being around when things were good, but when Clara faced a real crisis, he distanced himself, leaving her to fend for herself. While she was struggling, I quietly rebuilt my life. I took a 2-week trip to Europe, something I always wanted to do but had postponed for Clara. I returned refreshed and clear-headed, focusing on my work and landing the biggest project of my career. I reconnected with friends who had drifted away during my relationship with Clara, enjoying my renewed freedom and peace. The final lesson for Clara came about 6 months after our split. A major architectural journal published a feature on a historic theater I'd spent 2 years restoring. It was a huge honor and the highlight of my career. The article included a gala event for the theater's reopening, attended by the mayor and influential city leaders, with a photo of me accepting an award on stage. Final update. It's been just over a year since that Sunday dinner, and my life has transformed in ways I couldn't have anticipated. My company has grown, and the theater project's success has opened new doors. I sold my old house and bought a beautiful loft downtown, completely reflecting who I am. Clean lines, exposed brick, and industrial steel. About 6 months ago, I started dating again. Her name is Sarah. She's a doctor, kind, brilliant, and has a backbone of steel. Her family is a warm, welcoming Italian clan that embraced me wholeheartedly. Our past is behind us, and we're focusing on a future built on mutual respect and clear boundaries. It's been over a year since I last saw or spoke to Clara. I blocked her and her family from everything. I've heard from some mutual friends that her parents had to sell their big house and move to a condo, all because of the financial mess from the wedding and her dad's other failed attempts at business. Clara's still living with them and is trying to start her career as a life coach. But without my support, it's really not going anywhere. Now she's working part-time at a boutique, and she apparently hates it. Leo's out of the picture too. He got engaged to someone else and made it clear that Clara isn't in their new family. The last surprising encounter happened last month. I was at a charity auction with Sarah, just enjoying the night, when I spotted Clara volunteering and serving drinks. She saw me with Sarah, who's this lovely, successful woman, and for just a brief moment, her indifference fell away. I caught a glimpse of pure regret on her face, before she turned and disappeared into the kitchen.